young female members who admired him like a mentor. Little did they know, Emeka had begun to fall into the trap of his own desires. And Emeka quickly noticed her beauty. Emeka took her under his wing, giving her extra attention. Emeka took advantage of her innocence, leaving her with a secret that will haunt her forever. Amaka wasn't the only one. Emeka had seduced several other young choir girls. Emeka was known as the choir master of St. Jude's Catholic Church, one of the largest churches in the city. At 32, he had built a reputation for himself, not only as a talented musician, but also as a spiritual leader. His deep voice echoed through the church, lifting the congregation's spirits during every mass. The choir loved him, especially the young female members who admired him like a mentor. Little did they know, Emeka had begun to fall into the trap of his own desires. Among the choir members was Amaka, a 19-year-old girl with a sweet voice and a gentle heart. She joined the choir not long ago, and Emeka quickly noticed her beauty. She was shy, but had a natural talent for singing, and soon Emeka took her under his wing, giving her extra attention. His mentorship, however, crossed boundaries when he began to lure Amaka into an inappropriate relationship. Amaka, unaware of the darkness in his heart, trusted him as a father figure. One evening, after choir practice, Emeka asked Amaka to stay behind. He told her he had an important lesson to share with her about singing. But as the night went on, his words shifted. Amaka, you have a gift, and I see something in you that others don't, he said as a closed distance between them. Amaka's heart raced, but she was too naive to recognize the danger. That night, Emeka took advantage of her innocence, leaving her with a secret that will haunt her forever. Amaka wasn't the only one. Emeka had seduced several other young choir girls, all too afraid to speak up, their trust in him growing into fear. As the days passed, the whisper in the choir grew louder. Some girls began to show signs of pregnancy, but they kept their secret, afraid of the consequences. Emeka's charm and power over them had turned into a dark web of manipulation. He promised them that he would take care of everything, but deep down, the girls knew they were trapped. Amaka was confused when she started feeling sick. She tried to ignore the signs, but soon she could no longer deny it. She missed her period, and her stomach grew round. Emeka, noticing her discomfort, pulled her aside and whispered, "Don't worry, everything will be fine. We will take care of it." Amaka, now realizing the gravity of her situation, felt a mix of fear and guilt. She was too afraid to tell anyone what had happened. Her once innocent world was now dark and twisted. As more choir members began growing signs of pregnancy, the church community began to notice. The choir had become the talk of the town. Emeka, still acting as a trusted leader, denied everything. "These are just rumors," he would say with a smile, hiding the truth behind his charm. The elders of the church, suspicious but unwilling to confront him directly, watched from the sidelines as Emeka continued his manipulative ways. One Sunday afternoon, after Mass, a brave young girl named Choma stood up in front of the congregation. She has had enough of the lies and deceit. "I'm pregnant, and Emeka is the father," she shouted, her voice trembling but strong. The church fell silent. All eyes turned to Emeka, who stood frozen in shock. Chiroma's accusation sent shockwaves through the congregation, and the elders quickly called for a meeting. In the days that followed, more girls came forward, each one revealing their painful truth. Amaka, now visibly pregnant, also shared her story. The truth about Emeka's action was slowly coming to light. The church, once proud of its choir master, now looked at him with disgust. Emeka, realizing his power was slipping away, tried to turn the tables, "These girls are lying," he shouted in defense, but his voice lacked conviction. The church elders, after careful consideration, decided to suspend Emeka from his position as choir master. They were torn between protecting the reputation of the church and doing what was right. Emeka's charm and influence had once made him untouchable, but now the weight of his action was too much to ignore. The congregation, divided, began to turn against him. His once loyal choir members now see him as a villain. As Emeka sat alone in his apartment, reflecting on the destruction he had caused, Amaka and the other girls were left to face the consequences of their action. Amaka's family, devastated by the news, struggled to understand how their daughter had fallen victim to such a man. Emeka, once surrounded by praise and admiration, now faced the reality of the lives he had ruined. The guilt began to eat at him, but it was too late to undo the damage. Emeka's fall from grace was swift. The police, now involved, gathered enough evidence to arrest him. On the day of his arrest, Emeka tried to flee, but the officers were ready. As they handcuffed him, Emeka looked around at the faces of the people who had once adored him. His reputation, shattered beyond repair, would never be restored. The choir, the church, and the community were left to pick up the pieces of their broken trust. The courtroom was packed on the day of Emeka's trial. The once respected choir master now stood before the judge, facing serious charges. The victims, Amaka and the other girls, testified, their voices trembling but determined. Emeka tried to defend himself, but his words seemed hollow in the face of the overwhelming evidence. The judge, stern and unforgiving, delivered a message that would forever change Emeka's life. Emeka was sentenced to several years in prison for his crime. His once promising career in life were now reduced to nothing. As he was led away in handcuffs, he glanced at the faces of the people who had once trusted him, his heart with heavy regret. But it was too late. The damage was done, and Emeka would pay the price for his actions. In the months that followed, the church slowly began to heal. The choir, though broken, found strength in their shared pain. Amaka and the other girls, though scarred, learning the importance of speaking out and standing up for themselves, they found comfort in their families and in each other, knowing they were not alone. Emeka's story became a cautionary tale, one that will be told for generations. The church learned a hard lesson about trust and the importance of protecting the vulnerable. Amaka and the other girls, though forever changed, grew stronger. The story of Emeka's rise and fall will serve as a reminder that even the most trusted leaders could fall, but it was the courage to speak out that could heal the wounds. After Emeka's arrest, St. Jude's Catholic Church began a slow recovery. The church elders made efforts to restore the reputation of the choir and the church community. They implemented new measures to ensure the safety and well-being of all members, especially the young ones. Choir members who had once looked up to Emeka were now under the careful watch of the new choir master, a man of integrity, but the scars left by Emeka's betrayal would take time to heal. Amaka struggled to come to terms with everything that had happened. Her parents, though supportive, couldn't help but question her judgment. They had trusted Emeka, believing him to be a good man. Now Amaka faced the challenge of rebuilding her life, not just for herself, but for her child as well. She had become a young mother at a time when she wasn't prepared for it, but she was determined to give her child the love and care she had always wanted. Months after the trial, Amaka came face to face with some of the girls who had been affected by Emeka's action. Some were still too traumatized to speak, while others had begun to find their voice. Together they formed a support group, offering each other solace and understanding. The shame that once weighed heavily of them began to lift, and they started to find healing. in each other's company. They vowed never to let anyone manipulate them again. In prison, Emeka was left to reflect on his past. The once proud choir master, who had controlled the life of so many, now found himself isolated and powerless. His days were long and filled with regret. He often thought about the girls, especially Amaka. He realized too late that his actions had destroyed the life of those he had once held in high regard. As time passed, the other inmates treated him with contempt, and Emeka was forced to confront the emptiness of his life. St. Jude's Catholic Church, though scarred, began to rebuild its choir with new members. The new choir master emphasized not just talent, but also character. The choir became a symbol of resilience for a community, showing that even in the face of betrayal, there could be growth and renewal. The church leadership became more vigilant, ensuring that no such tragedy would ever occur again. The members of the choir worked hard to restore their faith in themselves and in their community. Amaka's mother, Mama Ngozi, struggled to come to terms with the pain her daughter had suffered. She had always known her daughter to be innocent and full of life, but now, as a young mother, Amaka had to carry the weight of a dark secret. Mama Ngozi often wept in private, wishing she could turn back time and protect her daughter from Emeka's influence. But she had learned that healing wasn't about undoing the past. It was about moving forward with love and courage. One evening, as Amaka sat with her newborn child in her arms, she had a revelation. She realized that her life, though altered, was not over. She had the power to shape her future and provide for her child in a way that would make her proud. She began to focus on her education, taking up online courses while balancing motherhood. Amaka's journey became one of the self-empowerment, proving that even after a fall, one could rise again. As years passed, the memories of Emeka's betrayal began to fade, but the lessons it taught remained. The girls who had once been so afraid now became strong women, speaking out for justice and supporting each other. Amaka, now a confident young woman, continued her studies and eventually became an advocate for women's rights, particularly for young girls who were vulnerable to exploitation. Her voice grew louder, and she inspired others who had suffered in silence to speak up. In the final years of his sentence, Emeka began to change, though his actions could never be undone. He sought redemption in the form of remorse. He started attending counseling sessions and sought forgiveness from those he had hurt. It was a long and painful process, but Emeka began to understand the depth of his wrongs. However, no amount of remorse could undo the lives he had scared, and he understood that his redemption could only come through the lives of others finding peace. Emeka's release from prison was a quiet one. No fanfare awaited him, no cheering crowd. He had been forgotten by many, and the ones who remembered him only did so with disdain. As Emeka walked out of the gates of the prison, he looked around the world he had once known. It had moved on without him. The last scene of his life was a bitter one. A man who had once been a star, now cast into the shadows of his past. Meanwhile, Amaka stood in front of a crowd of young women, delivering a speech about strength, resilience, and the importance of standing up for yourself. As she spoke, she saw her former choir members in the audience, all strong, successful women who had overcome their past. The world had moved on, and Emeka, though free, was nothing more than a memory. And with that, the curtain fell on Emeka's story, a tale of temptation, betrayal, and the ultimate consequences of his actions. The moral was clear. No matter how high you rise, your actions will always catch up with you, and the redemption is only found through genuine change, not through the passage of time. Thank you for watching. If you find the story interesting, please comment where you're watching from, like the video, and subscribe to our channel for for more interesting stories.